to the second video, and in this one, like I said, we will be deploying the infrastructure, and we'll wait for it to be completed, and in the next video, once the infra is ready, we'll start the walkthrough of the lab and everything else. So but before we actually deploy the infrastructure, let me just give you a quick heads up about the migration strategies or migration phases. Okay. So any migration that you do, okay, that technically involves three steps or three phases. So if somebody comes and tells you that I want to migrate some 65 servers or 100 servers, you won't just say like, okay, fine, let me just install the agent or give me access to the server. Tomorrow you'll have all those servers in cloud, right? So it has to go through multiple phases. I'll just give you what those are. Okay, so technically, so in a migration, before you even start the migration, you first have to perform some assessments, understand the workloads, how many are supported for migration, how many are going to be compatible in AWS. What if some servers are Windows Server 2003 or Ubuntu 9.10 or Ubuntu before the 16 or 14, which are outdated versions that may not even support the cloud migration. And then you need to understand what are the dependencies, how many AD servers are there, how many file servers, which machine has to talk to which machine. The front end servers must access the backend databases. What's the private IP address of those? And you also have to understand, are these machines fully utilized? You have an 8 core 32 GB machine in the on-prem, but the utilization is 3%. So what's the point of having the same machine, 8 core machine and 32 GB of RAM in cloud, when it is going to be super expensive to buy big machines on cloud? So you can resize those. So all of these will be done at the assess phase. So the steps, some of the activities that we do is discovery, and here we'll get the inventory, see the usage, the dependencies of the application. Everything will be reviewed at the assessment phase. Right sizing also, costing, all of this will be done during the assessment, because that's how you'll be able to prepare a business case and then give it to the customer that this is what, how much it's going to cost you for these many servers and cloud to run it 24/7, to run it 300 hours in a month. And you don't need to migrate so many servers because some of them are not even in use and they're all switched off. So all that part would be done at the assessment. Once the customer agrees after the assessment for the cost and the technology that is going to be used, they're all good about everything that we proposed. We start preparing the business case to be presented to the higher management. We start the landing zone work. Landing zone is nothing but the prerequisites on cloud, like your network, subnets, IP address, security, all the migration readiness, everything is actually done at the mobilize phase. And finally, once the mobilize is also given a go ahead, then we do the actual migration. So move the workloads, replication, cutover, test cutover, all the activities related to the actual migration takes place at the stage 3, and this is optional because modernize and optimization is something that you do it after the migration. Modernization is usually done after like 6 to 12 months after the workloads are migrated, and optimize is nothing but the right sizing in cloud. Modernize the applications to containers, or using Kubernetes, or the ECS clusters, or RDS, relational database services. All of these are done after the actual migration. Hence, it's called modernization. But if you do not want to do modernization, it's fine. You just leave it at migrate and then do the right sizing so that you spend less on the cloud. So these are the 4 things that we will also be seeing in our migration demos. But before, now that you understand the phases, I need you to understand the migration strategies also. The strategy is basically what kind of migration, because when we talk about migration, it's not just moving from one server to another server in cloud. There are different strategies of migration. It's called 7 R's of migration, where it talks about rehost. Like, I'll first list out what are the 7 R's: rehost, refactor, relocate, retire, repurchase, 1 2 3 4 5, retain, and replatform. Okay, so these are the 7 R's of migration, where the strategies, like, you can actually migrate your workloads using one of these. There are 7 different strategies for migration. So now, to give you a walkthrough of what these are: rehost simply means lift and shift. Take the server as it is, put it on a EC2 or put it on a VM in cloud. No changes to your application, no changes to the database, no changes to whatsoever. The server, what you have in the on-prem, will be just moved to the cloud. And before I talk about the refactor, I'll just put this as number 3. Okay, now, so you understand what is lift and shift, or the rehost. That's basically migrating a server to another server in cloud, and then you're gonna run it as it is. Replatform is basically lift, tinker, and shift. So you'll migrate, make some changes, and host it on cloud. Example can be RDS, relational database. I have a Microsoft SQL server in a EC2 or a VM. I move to cloud and run it on RDS, which is again going to be Microsoft SQL Server. So I'm still using Microsoft SQL Server, except for the fact that from a VM I've moved to RDS. So the database is still the same. There is no technology difference. There is no difference in how my applications are going to be connecting, or what my database administrators, DBAs, are going to do. It's still the same. So all I did is just move from a VM to a managed service platform, and except for that, nothing changes in the functionality. Refactor is basically completely fully re-architecting from scratch at the code level. So this is the most complex, or the difficult of it, most complex out of the 3, and needs more time. Now, what is the example for the refactor? Moving from monolith to microservices architecture. So we have to make the changes at the code level to make sure that it is a microservice architecture, from a VM to ECS or EKS. These are all part of the refactoring, where you have to literally make the application supported for microservices that should work with containers and so on. Then what is relocate? Because rehost looks like the same thing, right? Rehost is lift and shift. Relocate means, let's say it is specifically for some technologies. You have a VMware on-prem. Instead of that, you move to VMware on AWS. There are VMware hosting options on AWS as well. So you do have that capability. Just basically what you had in the on-prem, you're just relocating it to another place, which is going to be inside the AWS data center. That's it. And retire, I think we don't need much explanation on the last 3. Retire is decommissioning the servers, and repurchase is buy a new server or move or purchase a SaaS based offering like Salesforce instead of ERP or anything else, and retain is no changes whatsoever. Just stick to retain the server. That's it. So you might ask, out of the 7 hours, I only see 4 as the actual migration. The rest of it is not even a migration, correct? Yes, that's right. So the 7 hours of migration: rehost, replatform, refactor, relocate, retire, repurchase, and retain. So out of the 7, these 4 can be removed from the migration, because you only need to be knowing what a rehost, replatform, and refactor is, and everything that you will be doing part of the migration will also be only on these 3. Rarely you'll be using relocate, but even if you don't remember, because this is a newly launched service, it was 6 hours but now it became 7 hours because of relocate. So what you need to be strong is on these 3. What is rehost, what is replatform, what is refactor or re-architect? So this is what you need to know: lift and shift, lift, tinker, and shift, and literally re-architect everything from the code level. So this is these are the 7 migration strategies. And once you decide that I want to perform a refactor, then you'll again assess, mobilize, migrate, and modernize. Let's say you want to rehost or replatform. For whatever the strategies that you decide, you'll again have to perform the assessment, start the mobilization work, migrate the workloads, and you can go and modernize or optimize after the migration. Okay, this is before we start the migration itself. Okay, you need to be sure on what exactly are you doing, and then do what you want to do. Okay, so first be clear with these 7 hours of migration, and then you need to be clear on these 4 phases of migration. And because all these will be part of the interview, all these part of things that you will be doing on every single migration, so unless you're strong on this, you won't be able to run through the migration for your organization. So just be sure on this. And before we deploy the infrastructure, I just wanted to explain a little bit on this, hence I spent some time. So I'll stop the recording here, and I'll see you in the next video where we are going to be deploying the CloudFormation template. Thank you.